Let's take you back to Washington now, where Ziyanda Ngcobo is outside the South African Embassy in Washington, D.C. Ziyanda, I believe you have the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, with you.
That's right, and I'm just going to get straight into it. Minister Steenhuisen, welcome to Washington. And you're going to have, quickly, before I get into the other issues, you're going to have a briefing with the President. What are you going to be telling him? You were with Minister Dao, I believe, to meet with Ambassador Jameson. What was the topic of discussion? You've already intimated that opening the markets to South Africa and vice versa will be critical for you. The citrus industry is in need of a boost.
Yes, of course, and we met yesterday and had a very cordial and very constructive meeting with Ambassador Greer, the US trade representative, and we had a very open and frank exchange about how we can ensure mutually beneficial trade between South Africa and the United States of America, reiterating the importance of both markets for each other. Obviously, a lot of emphasis from America's side on wanting to rebalance some of the trade, and obviously from our side wanting to retain market access, but not with a 30% tariff. And so that was the discussion yesterday. We'll obviously be briefing the President today on the outcome of that meeting, what they put on the table, and some solutions on the way forward. But certainly, I think it was a constructive meeting, and our key goal here is to keep the doors open with the United States of America to ensure that we have good ongoing bilateral arrangements, and where we do have issues on phytosanitary and animal health, that we have open channels to be able to deal with them as quickly and expeditiously as possible so that we keep the mutual trade going.
Minister, at any stage during that particular meeting, did the issue of land expropriation or the Expropriation Act come up and what's happening to South African farmers, which has been the predominant narrative of the US, the White House at least, but at an official to official level, did that come up?
No, it didn't come up at all. It was a focus yesterday was on trade and how we can keep trade going. I've no doubt the matter will come up in the course of the period, and we must be honest, we have a rural safety problem, and it affects rural communities incredibly harshly because of poor police resources in rural areas, and of course the difficulties associated with policing in large areas. And that's why I think what we should be doing is looking for partnerships with other countries about how we can improve using technology and other means rural safety. Farmers and farm workers do feel unsafe and insecure in many parts of rural areas, but it's no different to challenges faced in rural areas around other parts of the world. And what we need to do is to make sure that we focus policing resources there, and that we have a far better synergy between local security initiatives by farmers and farming organizations and formal SAPS interventions in those rural areas.
I mean, undoubtedly, the land question in South Africa is quite complex. It's got racial undertones. There's also issues of legislation and Section 25, and there's also issues of farm workers vis-a-vis farm owners. And you've recently made remarks at the Nampo Agriculture Festival. Some have really pushed back at you. Now, you're also the leader of the DA, the second biggest partner in the government of national unity. And I know you don't like to talk about race, but how important is it going to be you for a white man in the agriculture portfolio communicating to the Trump administration that believes that white Afrikaners are being persecuted and white farmers are being persecuted? Do you think, in a way, you are going to be able to bolster Team South Africa's messaging?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I regard myself as the Minister of Agriculture, not the white Minister of Agriculture. And I think we should start seeing people as judging them on their character, not on as envoys of their race. However, I mean, I think we do recognize that in South Africa, we've got to address imbalances in land ownership, and the way we do that has to be responsible and ensure that it doesn't affect food security and doesn't affect the property rights. That's why Section 25 of the Constitution is intact. You would know as well that the matter of expropriation without compensation is currently before the courts of South Africa, as any judicial review of any process of government anywhere in the world would take place. And we obviously look forward to the court clarifying that. As you know, I'm very firmly of the view that compensation has to be fair and equitable as Section 25 of the Constitution says. And I reiterate, Section 25 of the Constitution remains intact. I don't regard nil compensation as a fair and balanced way of being able to do compensation. But I think that, we will get clarity from the court, and we will then be able to ensure that we have an expropriation act that speaks to the Constitution. But I come back to the point, we have to address imbalances in land ownership, but we must do it in a responsible way and in a way that ensures that we don't harm the economic future of the country and that we don't jeopardize food security in the country.
What are some of the tasks that President Ramaphosa has bestowed upon you as a part of the South African delegation, besides having, of course, one-on-ones with your counterparts? Are there any other extra meetings or sideline gatherings that he has perhaps asked you to engage in?
Well, we'll be hearing this morning what extra issues we'll be asked to deal with. As I say, I'm here as the Agriculture Minister, and my job is to protect agri-jobs in South Africa and to protect our agriculture in South Africa and to make sure we retain market access, particularly on very key niche issues and products: wine, citrus, nuts and table grapes. Very, very big exposure to the US market. Although the US only accounts for around 7% of our agricultural global exports, it's very concentrated in those sectors. And towns like Citrus Dull in the Western Cape are almost entirely dependent on access to the US market. So for me, I'm here for one reason, and that is to ensure that we protect our agricultural jobs and our agricultural economy in South Africa by ensuring that we retain access on a favorable basis to a very important market.
What would you say? I mean, Minister, I think we can agree that you've got a substantial amount of support from the agricultural industry as you stand here in the United States. So what would your message be to those who have actually started this fire and have now left it to people like you to put it out here in the United States, where the president has described them as cowards and simply a fringe group that has really now brought us to this moment?
Well, I would say this, especially after having been at Nampo for 2 days last week, that the agricultural sector, and certainly farmers that I interacted with, are 100% committed to South Africa. They don't want to go anywhere else. They are happy to be here in South Africa. And of course, we have challenges: roads, safety, harbours, ports and harbours, and the inefficiencies there. But they see these things as resolvable. And that's also one of the reasons I'm here. We're here to resolve an issue that has arisen. And I'm confident that by working together as an agricultural sector, farmers, farm workers, organized agriculture organizations, agricultural businesses, that we will be able to find a solution through the problems that face us. That, at the end of the day, is the quintessential essence of being a South African. You make a plan, you find a way through. And our entire history has been defined by when we stand together, we can resolve issues and problems. It's when we are divided amongst ourselves that we end up facing big challenges and that look like they're unresolvable. And so I'm committed to bringing people together in a South African way to be able to find a way through the challenges it faces. And we mustn't be naive. We face challenges. This is not a jolly hockey sticks tour saying there's nothing to see in South Africa, everything's fine. We know we've got a crime problem. We know we've got a land issue. We know that we've got an economy that's not growing. But I'm here to be solution-oriented and not just stand on the sidelines throwing stones, but to get into the arena now and start to do something to make sure that we pull together as South Africans and that the United States government can see that the majority of South Africans, black, white, Indian, colored, whatever, are here in South Africa to stand. We want a country that works for all of us.
So it's important, of course, as the leader of the DA and the second biggest part of the GNU, to have been included on this trip, yes?
Well, I also think it's very good because what it does is it sets out very clearly that this is a new administration. Now, we know things have happened in the past that have irritated the US administration. The Lady R, some of the Israel, the ICJ. And I think it's very important to emphasize that this is a new administration. The 7th administration is not the 6th administration that took many of the decisions that may have irritated, and that they need to give the government of national unity a chance because we are a new government that is striking out in a new direction of unity of purpose and with different views and opinions now sitting around the cabinet table that will find expression in legislation, in regulations, and in ways forward.
Minister John Steenhuisen, thank you for your time. The Agriculture Minister there ahead of that 10 a.m. meeting with the President. I know that on channel as well, we've been promising to speak to Minister Parkstow. I'm sure you would have seen him as well, Vuyomvoko, walking into the embassy. It seems that he'll be available much later on this afternoon. Of course, one of the key components of this delegation, given how there's a lot of emphasis on resetting economic ties, as you'll see Minister Steenhuisen also rushing in, preparing themselves before the President arrives so that they have their story straight. They give him feedback on that meeting that they held yesterday alongside Minister Dow and his counterparts. What was discussed? What are the compromises that would have been made? The bartering? Hopefully we'll get a bit more information after that gathering at 10 o'clock. We understand it's not expected to be a long meeting with the President Ramaphosa. It's just to also give him a sense of how far the team has gotten before he, of course, leads that all-important meeting in the Oval tomorrow.
Ziyanda Ngcobo at the South African Embassy in Washington, D.C., as we, of course, bring you rolling coverage of the build-up to President Ramaphosa's meeting with his U.S. counterpart, Donald Trump, tomorrow. Very shortly, the South African delegation will be meeting with, of course, President Ramaphosa at the helm. We'll bring you all the updates. But also, speaking there now to the Agriculture Minister, the agricultural sector, just in the Western Cape, employs more than 200,000 people. That tells you just how significant. In fact, hopefully a little later on, we'll bring you that story, and perhaps you'll have an appreciation of the work that John Steenhuisen has to do as he meets his other U.S. ministers together with their president. Ntokozo Khumalo, whom you saw earlier, did a piece as well about the citrus industry in the country, but also their hopes and aspirations ahead of that meeting to take place in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. We'll bring you those stories a little later on.